Poor twins make a request to a young billionaire. Will you be our dad at the school presentation? The answer will give you goosebumps. When school let out, Emma and Chloe waited in the schoolyard of St. Francis Elementary, while the other children ran to their parents, excitedly chattering about the presentation they would have on Friday. The twins sat quietly on a bench, swinging legs that barely touched the ground. Everyone's already talking about the dresses they're going to wear and how their parents are going to film it, Chloe muttered, kicking a small stone on the ground. We're the only ones who will be alone. At least we have a mum, Emma replied, always the more practical one. Even if she can't come, Chloe pouted. But Tommy's mum doesn't even work, and his dad is taking the day off just to see him sing, and he's not even a good singer. The two fell silent, remembering that morning's conversation. Their mother, Sophie, had found the note about the family day presentation and explained, with tears in her eyes, that she couldn't miss her shift at the diner on Friday. It was the busiest day of the week, and she was already hanging on by a thread after having to miss a day when Emma got sick last month. That's when the twins noticed a shiny black car parking across the street. A young man in a dark, well-tailored suit got out of the vehicle. He glanced at his watch, impatient, and took out his phone. Look at that man, Chloe nudged her sister. He looks important. Emma watched the stranger with curiosity. Do you think he's someone's dad? No, Chloe answered thoughtfully. I've never seen him before. The man began to pace back and forth on the sidewalk, talking on the phone, looking a bit lost or late. Chloe suddenly stood up from the bench. Let's go talk to him. What, why? Emma asked, startled by her sister's suggestion. I don't know, Chloe shrugged, already determined. I just have a feeling. Mom told us not to talk to strangers, Emma reminded her, hesitating. We're just going to ask if he's lost, Chloe replied, already pulling her sister by the hand. Come on. Without giving Emma time to protest further, Chloe started walking decisively toward the gate. Emma followed reluctantly, glancing back to see if any teachers were watching them. The twins left the school gate and stopped on the sidewalk. The man was across the street, still on his phone. Let's wait for him to hang up, Chloe whispered, as if they were on a secret mission. The man was having a complicated day. The GPS had led him to the wrong address, and now he was late for an important meeting. Tell Mr. Martinez I'll be there in 20 minutes. Tops, he said into the phone, then hung up. That's when he noticed two identical little girls watching him from across the street. They wore simple school uniforms and had light brown hair tied in pigtails. They were looking at him with undisguised curiosity. He smiled slightly, amused by the situation. He gave the girls a brief wave and turned his attention back to his phone, trying to figure out the right way to go. To his surprise, the twins crossed the street and stopped a few feet away from him. One of them, apparently the bolder one, took a step forward. Hi. Are you lost? The man raised his eyebrows, surprised by the direct approach. A little, I'm looking for a company's address. The girl nodded, as if that made perfect sense. I thought you looked important. You're wearing a suit. He couldn't help but smile. And you're very observant. What's your name? I'm Chloe, and this is my sister Emma. We're twins. I figured that much, he replied, putting his phone in his pocket. There was something about these girls that intrigued him. Perhaps the confidence with which they approached a stranger, or the contrast between their expressions, one shy, the other fearless. And what's your name? Chloe asked, looking him directly in the eye. The man hesitated for a moment, as if considering whether he should answer. Noah, he said finally. Noah Bennett. That's a nice name, commented Emma. Speaking for the first time, her voice was softer than her sister's. Thank you, Noah smiled. You know, you two shouldn't be talking to strangers. You don't look dangerous, Chloe replied simply. And we're right in front of the school. Everyone can see us. Noah glanced around, noticing a few adults watching the scene with attention. He made sure to keep a respectful distance from the children. We have a presentation at school on Friday, Chloe continued, changing the subject abruptly. We're going to sing and show drawings of our family. That sounds very nice, Noah replied, playing along. Our mom can't go, Emma explained, looking down at her shoes. She has to work to pay the bills. Noah felt a pang in his chest at the girl's frankness. I'm sorry to hear that. Everyone is bringing their parents, Chloe added, her voice revealing her sadness. We're the only ones who will be alone on stage. We only have our mom, Emma continued, but she has 2 jobs. The teacher said someone from the family has to be there, Chloe said, looking at her shoes. But we don't have anyone else. That must be tough for you, Noah commented, genuinely touched. It's worse at the presentations, Emma said quietly, when everyone has someone watching and clapping for them. Tommy is bringing his mom and dad, Chloe recounted, crossing her arms, and he can't even sing right. He sounds like a frog. Noah couldn't hold back a laugh. And you two, do you sing well? The teacher says we do, Emma replied, with a small smile. We practiced a lot. I'm the best in the class, Chloe stated with conviction, but no one will be there to see it. I'm sure you'll do great, Noah said, glancing at his watch. He really needed to go, but something about these girls stopped him from just saying goodbye and leaving. Do you have kids? Chloe asked, observing him with curiosity. Noah shook his head. No, I'm not married. Why not? Chloe continued, ignoring her sister's disapproving look. Chloe, Emma scolded, blushing. You don't ask that. Noah laughed again. It's okay. I guess I've never found the right person. Our mum doesn't have a husband either, Emma explained. She says it's just the 3 of us against the world. And you manage well, from what I can see, Noah commented with a gentle smile. Chloe looked at her sister, as if asking for permission for something. Emma gave a slight nod. You could be our dad at the presentation, Chloe said suddenly, her voice clear and direct. Just on Friday, to watch us sing. Noah was completely speechless. The unexpected request caught him totally off guard. It would only be for 1 day, Emma added shyly. No one would know you're not our real dad. We just need someone to clap for us, Chloe explained. So we're not the only ones with nobody. It would be at 10 o'clock, Emma said, her eyes revealing hope. If you don't have a meeting at that time. Noah looked at the girls, surprised by the boldness of the request. Part of him wanted to say yes immediately, moved by the sadness in their eyes, but another, more rational part knew it would be strange for an adult to show up pretending to be the father of children he barely knew. I don't know if that would be appropriate, he said finally. We hardly know each other, and we wouldn't tell anyone, Chloe insisted. It would be our secret. I understand you're disappointed that your mom can't go, Noah said gently, but I don't know if I can help in that way. The twins' faces lost some of their brightness. Chloe lowered her head, trying to hide her disappointment. It's okay, Emma said with a small smile. It was just an idea. A silly idea, Chloe muttered. It's not silly, Noah hurried to say, touched by their sadness. It's just complicated. We understand, Emma replied, pulling her sister by the hand. Sorry to bother you. You didn't bother me, Noah assured them. It was a pleasure meeting you. We have to go, Chloe said, her voice less cheerful than before. The teacher will get worried. Of course, Noah nodded. Good luck with the presentation. I'm sure you'll do great. The twins waved a brief goodbye and started to walk away. After a few steps, Chloe stopped and turned around. It's at St. Francis Elementary, she said, pointing to the building behind them. Friday, 10 o'clock. In case you change your mind. Before Noah could respond, the girls had already crossed the street and were entering the school gate. He watched them until they disappeared into the yard. His phone rang, bringing him back to reality. It was his assistant wanting to know why he hadn't arrived at the meeting yet. I'm on my way, Noah replied, getting into his car. As he drove, he couldn't get the encounter with the twins out of his head. There was something about them that had touched him deeply. The request for him to pretend to be their father for a day was absurd. Of course, he barely knew them. He had no obligation to them. And yet, the thought of them being alone on stage, while all the other children had their parents in the audience, bothered him more than he wanted to admit. St. Francis Elementary, he muttered to himself. Friday, 10 o'clock. On Friday, the auditorium of St. Francis Elementary was packed with eager parents, some with cameras, others with flowers to give their children after the show. Backstage, the children were getting ready, adjusting their clothes and rehearsing their lines one last time. Amid the hustle and bustle, the twins stood quietly in a corner, already resigned to the fact that they would be the only ones without anyone in the audience. "Do you think he'll come?" Emma asked, as she straightened the bow on her sister's dress. Chloe shrugged, trying to seem indifferent. "Of course not. He didn't even say he would." "But he didn't say he wouldn't either," Emma argued, ever the optimist. "He's an important man," Chloe replied. "He must have more important things to do than pretend to be the dad of 2 girls he doesn't even know." "It was a silly idea," Emma sighed. "It was," Chloe agreed, although her eyes revealed she still held a small glimmer of hope. The teacher began to call the children into formation. "Kindergarten class, you're next. Remember to smile." The twins stood side by side, holding their drawings. As the curtain opened, their eyes immediately scanned the audience, more out of habit than hope. The rows were filled with smiling parents, some with cameras, others waving excitedly to their children. Several children proudly pointed to their parents in the audience. The twins felt that familiar pang of sadness, seeing all the seats occupied by complete families, while they had no one. And then, almost at the back of the auditorium, leaning against the wall as if he had arrived too late to get a seat, they saw him. Noah Bennett was there, wearing a dark suit, watching the stage intently. When his eyes met the twins, he smiled and gave a discreet wave. Emma's and Chloe's faces lit up simultaneously. The surprise and joy were so intense that for a moment they forgot where they were. They squeezed each other's hands, barely able to contain their excitement. "He came," whispered Emma, without taking her eyes off Noah. "I knew it," Chloe replied, though her tone of voice betrayed that she was also surprised. The show began. One by one, the children showed their drawings and sang little songs about family. When it was the twins' turn, they stepped forward to the center of the stage with a confidence they hadn't felt moments before. "This is a drawing of our family," Chloe announced, showing the colorful paper. "It's me, my sister Emma, and our mum. Our mum works very hard to take care of us," Emma added, her voice surprisingly firm. "She couldn't be here today, but we know she loves us very much." The twins then began to sing a song about family. Their sweet, in-tune voices filled the auditorium. Throughout the performance, their eyes constantly sought out Noah at the back of the room. He smiled and watched them attentively, as if he really were the proud father they had asked him to pretend to be. When they finished, the auditorium erupted in applause. Noah clapped more enthusiastically than anyone, and the twins could have sworn they saw a glint of emotion in his eyes. At the end of the presentation, while the other children ran to hug their parents, Emma and Chloe came down from the stage and walked shyly over to Noah. "You really came," Chloe said, her eyes shining. "You were incredible," Noah replied, genuinely impressed. "You sing very well." "Thank you for coming," said Emma, more reserved, but just as happy. "No one has ever—" She didn't complete the sentence, but she didn't have to. Noah understood what she meant. "It was my pleasure," he replied, feeling an unexpected emotion. "You invited me, and I couldn't miss it." "The other kids thought you were our real dad," Chloe recounted proudly. "We didn't say you weren't." Noah felt a lump in his throat. How could 2 children he barely knew affect him so much? "It's okay," he said, smiling. "Our secret." The twins smiled back, and in that moment, something shifted inside Noah. Maybe it was their innocence, or the way they looked at him with admiration, or simply the fact that they had trusted him, a complete stranger, to fill, even for a few hours, a void in their lives. "Shais, you were great," he repeated, not quite sure what else to say. "Truly. Thanks for being our dad today," Chloe said, with that disarming frankness that seemed to be her trademark. Noah nodded, not trusting his voice to reply. "We have to go now," Emma explained. "The teacher is calling everyone back to the classroom." "Of course," Noah replied, composing himself. It was very nice meeting you." The twins waved one last time and walked away, hand in hand as always. Noah watched them, until they disappeared into the crowd of happy families. Something had changed in him, a desire he never knew he had. The desire to protect, to care for, to be part of these children's lives was now present. As he left the school, Noah already knew that this encounter had touched his heart in a way he hadn't expected. That sad look in the girls' eyes, their courage in approaching him, the simplicity of their request, all of it had awakened something inside him that he couldn't explain. What he didn't imagine was how that simple, innocent request would change his life forever. While the other children were hugged and photographed by their proud parents, Noah remained at the back of the auditorium, watching the twins walk away with their teacher. The presentation was over, but he couldn't just leave. Those girls had broken through barriers he didn't even know existed, and now he found himself inexplicably connected to them. He decided to wait at the school entrance. Classes hadn't ended yet, but the Family Day presentation had been a special event. As the other families left the auditorium, Noah checked his watch. He had already cancelled 2 important meetings to be there, and now he considered cancelling the rest of his day. After almost an hour, the classroom doors opened and the children began to stream out. Noah spotted the twins immediately. They were walking hand in hand, chatting excitedly, their faces still glowing from the joy of their successful performance. When they saw him, they stopped for a moment, surprised that he was still there. Then, identical smiles spread across their faces as they ran toward him. "You're still here?" exclaimed Chloe, with contagious enthusiasm. "We thought you had already left," Emma added, more reserved but equally happy. Noah smiled, surprised by his own relief at seeing them again. "I wanted to say a proper goodbye," he explained. "So you were truly amazing up there." "Everyone thought you were our real dad," Chloe recounted, lowering her voice as if sharing a secret. "The teacher asked where you came from, and we just said it was a surprise." Noah laughed, fascinated by the girl's spontaneity. A sudden idea popped into his head, and before he could think better of it, the words were already out. "Have you had lunch yet? I was thinking we could get something to eat together, to celebrate the presentation." The twins' eyes widened in perfect sync. "Like at a restaurant?" Chloe asked, incredulous. "If you'd like," Noah replied, realizing too late that he might be crossing a line. "Of course, if you don't have other plans or if you don't need to go home." "We don't have plans," Emma hurried to say. "We usually go home by ourselves and make a sandwich. Mom only gets home from her first job at 3, Chloe explained. Noah felt a pang of sadness imagining the girls going back to an empty apartment, preparing their own lunch. Children of 6 or 7 shouldn't have to spend so much time alone. "So, what do you think?" he asked. "I know a place nearby with the best milkshakes in town." "Milkshakes?" Chloe's eyes sparkled. "Can we really?" "Of course," Noah smiled. "You deserve it, after that performance." Emma, always the more cautious one, hesitated. "Mom said we shouldn't go to places with strangers." "She's right," Noah agreed seriously. "That's a very important rule. But we know each other now, don't we? And we're in public, where everyone can see us." Emma considered for a moment, then nodded. "I guess it's okay, just this once. What do you think, Chloe?" "I think I'm hungry," Chloe replied promptly, making Noah laugh. "It's settled then," he said, offering a hand to each of them. "Let's go celebrate your performance." The twins took his hands without hesitation, and together they walked to the car. Noah helped them buckle their seatbelts in the back seat, struck by how natural it felt, as if he had done it hundreds of times before. The restaurant Noah chose wasn't far, a family-friendly place with outdoor seating and a varied menu. It wasn't the kind of establishment he usually frequented, but it seemed appropriate for the occasion. Seated at a table on the patio, with colorful umbrellas shielding them from the sun, Noah watched the twins study the menu with solemn expressions, as if it were a task of extreme importance. "Can I order anything?" Chloe asked, her eyes scanning the colorful pictures. "Of course," Noah replied. "Whatever you want." "Even French fries?" Emma asked, almost in a whisper, as if afraid of pushing her luck. "Especially French fries," Noah confirmed, feeling a strange mix of joy and sadness. It was evident that a simple lunch at a restaurant was a rarity for them. After placing their orders, burgers, fries, and chocolate milkshakes for the girls, and a sandwich for Noah, they fell into a surprisingly easy conversation. "So, do you always walk home from school by yourselves?" Noah asked, trying to keep his tone casual. Emma nodded. "Most of the time. Mom works at a store in the morning and at a restaurant at night. She only has Sundays off," Chloe added, playing with the straw of her milkshake. "But even then, she sometimes picks up an extra shift." "That must be hard for you," Noah commented. "We manage," Emma replied with a maturity that didn't match her age. "I know how to heat up food in the microwave, and we already know how to take showers by ourselves. And do our homework," Chloe added proudly. "I help Emma with math, and she helps me with reading." Noah felt a lump form in his throat. These children had already learned to be independent in a way no child should have to. "Mom said it will be easier when she finishes college," Emma explained, as if feeling the need to defend her mother. "She studies at night, when we're already asleep." "Your mother sounds like an incredible person," Noah commented sincerely. "Working, studying, and taking care of you." "She's the best mom in the world," Chloe affirmed with conviction. "But sometimes we wish we had a dad too." Emma nudged her sister, as if scolding her for her frankness, but Chloe just shrugged. "It's true," she insisted. "Everyone at school has a dad except us." You've never met your father?" Noah asked hesitantly, unsure if he was treading on forbidden territory. The twins shook their heads simultaneously. "Mom said he left before we were born," Emma explained. "She doesn't really like to talk about it." "But we have pictures of him," Chloe added. "Mom keeps them in a box under her bed." "Chloe," Emma chided, "we're not supposed to go through Mom's things." "I didn't go through them," Chloe defended herself. "I saw it when I was looking for my lost sock." Noah watched the interaction with fascination. It was clear that, despite their identical appearances, the girls' personalities were completely different, one cautious and responsible, the other impulsive and direct. "Do you have a lot of friends at school?" Noah asked, deliberately changing the subject. The conversation flowed naturally as they ate. The twins told him about their teachers, their favorite subjects, their classmates. Noah listened with genuine interest, asking questions and laughing at the stories they told with such enthusiasm. "And you?" Chloe asked suddenly as she finished her milkshake. "Were you always rich?" "Chloe!" Emma exclaimed, looking mortified. "I'm sorry," she added, looking at Noah. "She has no filter," Noah laughed. "It's okay. And no, I wasn't born rich. In fact, I grew up in very different circumstances than I have today." The twins looked at him with renewed curiosity. "What do you mean?" asked Emma. Noah hesitated. He wasn't used to talking about his past, especially with people he had just met. But there was something in the sincerity of these children that made him want to be just as sincere. "Well, when I was a kid, about your age, my family didn't have much money," he began. "My mom also worked 2 jobs just like yours." "Really?" Chloe seemed genuinely surprised. But you have such a nice car," Noah smiled. "That came much later. When I was little, we lived in a very small apartment, and sometimes it was hard to pay all the bills." "Were you also home alone?" Emma asked. "Often," Noah confirmed. "And I also had to learn to fend for myself early on." "And your dad?" Chloe asked directly. "Did he leave like ours did?" Noah felt a pang as he remembered his father. Not exactly. He was physically present, but he had problems. He drank a lot, and he wasn't a very responsible person. The twins watched him with absolute attention, as if every word was important. "But how did you get rich?" Chloe wanted to know. Noah laughed at the frankness of the question. "I studied a lot. I got a scholarship to college, and then I worked hard. I had some good ideas and a little bit of luck too." "See, Emma?" Chloe nudged her sister. "Mom is right. If we study, we can be rich one day too." "It's not just about money," Noah added gently. "It's about doing something you love, and that makes a difference." When they finished eating, Noah realized he had spent almost 2 hours talking with the girls. Time had flown by in a way it rarely did during his business lunches. "I think it's time to take you home," he said, looking at his watch. A brief look of disappointment crossed the twins' faces, but they nodded understandingly. "That was the best lunch of my life," Chloe declared solemnly, making Noah smile. "Mine too," he replied, surprised by the sincerity of the statement. On the way to the car, Noah made an impulsive decision. If you tell me the address, I can drive you home. Here it's safer than you going back alone. The girls exchanged glances as if consulting each other silently. Mom only gets home at 3, Emma remembered, but I think it's okay. Apartment 302, Oakwood Apartments, Maple Street, Chloe recited promptly. During the short drive to the apartment, Noah found himself thinking about how the day had taken a completely unexpected turn. What had started as an impulsive act of kindness, attending the school presentation of 2 girls he barely knew, had turned into something more significant. The Oakwood Apartments was a modest 4-story building, without an elevator, in a simpler part of the city. Noah parked the car and accompanied the twins to the 3rd floor. "This is it," announced Emma, stopping in front of door 302. She took out a key attached to a lanyard hidden under her uniform shirt. "Do you want to come in?" Chloe invited, as Emma unlocked the door. "We can show you our drawings." Noah hesitated. Entering the apartment of 2 children without a parent present seemed inappropriate. On the other hand, leaving them alone also worried him. "Just for a moment," he finally decided, "until I'm sure you'll be okay." The apartment was small but surprisingly cozy. A combined living room and kitchen, 2 small bedrooms visible through ajar doors, and a bookshelf filled with books that took up almost an entire wall. There were plants on the windowsills and children's drawings taped to the refrigerator. The place exuded simplicity but also care and effort. "Mom made that bookshelf," Emma explained proudly, noticing Noah's gaze. "She likes to fix things. And those are our plants." Chloe pointed to the small pots on the windowsill. "We take care of them every day." Noah was about to comment on the apartment when he heard the sound of keys at the door. The twins turned, surprised. "It's Mom!" exclaimed Emma. "She never gets home this early." The door opened, and a young woman entered carrying a grocery bag. She looked tired, but smiled when she saw her daughters, until she noticed Noah standing in her living room. The smile vanished instantly, replaced by an expression of shock. The bag slipped from her hands, scattering apples across the floor. "Girls, who is—" she began, but her voice failed as she looked directly at Noah. "Mom, this is Noah," Chloe explained excitedly, seemingly oblivious to the sudden tension. "He came to our presentation today. And then he took us to lunch," Emma added. "We had burgers and milkshakes." Sophie Bennett remained motionless, her face now as pale as paper. Her eyes, identical to her daughter's, were fixed on Noah, a mixture of recognition and poorly concealed panic. "A pleasure to meet you," Noah said, extending his hand automatically, even as he sensed something strange was happening. "The girls invited me in. I hope you don't mind." "Your face looks familiar," he added, trying to understand why the woman in front of him seemed so disturbed by his presence. Sophie swallowed hard, forcing a tense smile as she bent down to pick up the scattered apples. "You must be confusing me with someone else," she replied quickly, avoiding his gaze. "We've never met before." But there was something in the way she said it, an underlying tension, almost a tremor in her voice, that made Noah doubt it immediately. He knew this woman from somewhere. He was sure of it. But where? "Mom, Noah grew up without much money too, just like us," Chloe exclaimed, oblivious to the palpable tension between the adults. "And now he's rich and has an amazing car." "Chloe, Emma, why don't you go change your clothes?" Sophie suggested, finally looking at her daughters. "I need to talk to Mr. Bennett." The girls looked like they were about to protest, but something in their mother's tone made them obey without question. Reluctantly, they headed to their room, casting curious glances over their shoulders before closing the door. When they were finally alone, the silence between Noah and Sophie was almost palpable. He watched her more closely, the light brown hair tied in a simple bun, the tired but still intensely green eyes identical to her daughter's. "Gus, I really feel like I know you from somewhere," Noah insisted gently. Sophie took a deep breath as if gathering courage. Her eyes finally met his, and in that moment, Noah felt something, a connection, a memory trying to surface. "You should leave," she said, her voice a bit firmer now. "And please, don't come back." The girls don't need false hope in their lives. False hope, Noah repeated, confused. I just came to their presentation and brought them home safely. And why would you do that? Sophie questioned, crossing her arms defensively. Why would a man like you be interested in two children you barely know? The question caught him off guard. Why, indeed? What had motivated him to attend the presentation, to invite them to lunch, to bring them home? They asked me to, he replied simply, because it was the truth. They wanted someone in the audience, and I couldn't say no. For an instant, Sophie's expression softened, as if she understood exactly what he meant. Her daughters had that effect on people, the ability to break down barriers with their disarming sincerity. But then, as quickly as it appeared, the softness was gone, replaced by determination. I appreciate what you did, she said, opening the door in an obvious invitation for him to leave. But it would be better for everyone if this doesn't happen again. Noah felt a strange reluctance to leave, as if he were leaving something important behind. But he respected her wish, heading for the door. They are extraordinary children, he said, pausing in the doorway. You must be very proud. For a moment, Sophie looked like she was about to say something more. There was a visible struggle in her eyes, as if she were debating some important decision internally. But in the end, she just nodded. Thank you, Mr. Bennett. As the door closed behind him, Noah couldn't help but feel that this wasn't really a goodbye. There was something inexplicable about that family, something that drew him in a way he couldn't understand. And that feeling of familiarity when looking at Sophie, it wasn't just his imagination. He knew her, he was sure of it. He just couldn't remember from where. 3 days had passed since the tense encounter at the twins' apartment, and Noah couldn't stop thinking about them. The image of the girls singing on stage, their faces lit up at seeing him in the audience, the simplicity with which they shared their lives over lunch, it all kept coming back to his mind at the most unexpected moments. And then there was Sophie, with her startled look of recognition. Noah still couldn't remember where he had met her before, but he was sure their paths had crossed at some point. The way she reacted made it clear that it hadn't been just any encounter. Sitting in his luxurious office, Noah found himself ignoring important reports and staring out the window, lost in thought. His assistant had already asked twice if everything was okay, noticing his unusual distraction. "Mr. Bennett?" Sarah called from the door, interrupting his reflections. "The CFO is waiting for the 2 o'clock meeting." "Cancel it," Noah replied abruptly. "Cancel all my appointments for the rest of the day." The assistant hesitated, surprised by the request. In 6 years of working for him, she had rarely seen him cancel meetings without an urgent reason. "Did something happen?" she asked, concerned. Noah shook his head, already grabbing his jacket. "No, nothing serious. I just need to take care of a personal matter." 20 minutes later, he was parking his car in front of a large shopping mall. He didn't have a specific plan, just an impulse he couldn't explain even to himself. As he walked through the bright corridors of the department store, he stopped in the children's section. School uniforms and sneakers, backpacks, notebooks, the shelves were full of items that most parents bought without a second thought, but which for some families represented significant sacrifices. Noah remembered Emma's casual comment during lunch about how they had to save everything, even colored pencils, to make them last the whole year. Without hesitation, he began to select items, 2 complete sets of uniforms for each girl, new backpacks, notebooks, pencil cases filled with colored pencils, and sneakers, comfortable and good quality, not the cheapest ones on the shelf. He remembered how the girls had mentioned they liked to draw, so he added pads of special paper and a watercolor paint set. When he got to the checkout, the cashier looked at the amount of purchases with curiosity. "Twins?" she asked, smiling as she scanned the duplicate items. Noah nodded, surprised at how the idea didn't seem strange. "Yes, 2 girls." "They're lucky," the woman commented, looking at the quality of the items he had chosen. "They're going to love these, especially these watercolors. My daughter has a similar set." Noah paid without paying attention to the total amount, a sum that was insignificant to him, but probably represented a full month's salary for Sophie. With his arms full of bags, he drove to the Oakwood apartments. With every block he got closer, He questioned his decision. Sophie had made it clear she didn't want to see him again. Was he overstepping boundaries, invading the life of a family he barely knew? But then he remembered the look in the twins' eyes when they mentioned having to save school supplies, the visibly faded and too small uniforms, and he decided to go ahead. In the worst-case scenario, Sophie would refuse the things, and he would donate them to a charity. He climbed the 3 flights of stairs and stopped in front of door 302. He took a deep breath and rang the doorbell. It was the twins who answered, their identical faces lighting up instantly upon seeing him. "Noah!" they exclaimed in unison, Chloe immediately throwing herself into his arms for a hug while Emma smiled more shyly. "You came back," Chloe continued, practically jumping with excitement. "Mom said you weren't going to come anymore." "Chloe," Emma gently chided her, always more mindful of social graces. "He brought a bunch of bags." Noah smiled, genuinely happy with the warm welcome. "I brought a few things for you. May I come in?" "Of course." Chloe pulled him by the hand, while Emma looked hesitantly toward the inside of the apartment. "Mom's in the shower," she explained. "She just got home from work." "Even better," Noah commented, stepping inside and placing the bags on the floor of the small living room. "I want to surprise all 3 of you." The twins' eyes widened when they saw the number of packages. "Is all this for us?" Chloe asked, incredulous. "So open them and see," Noah encouraged, feeling a wave of satisfaction at their excitement. He didn't have to say it twice. The girls began to explore the bags with enthusiasm, taking out each item with almost reverent care. Their eyes grew wider with each discovery. "Look, Emma," Chloe exclaimed, holding up one of the new uniforms. "It's the right size." Emma was already examining the pencil case full of colored pencils, running her fingers over each one as if they were tiny treasures. "There are 36 different colors," she murmured, amazed. But it was when they found the sneakers that Noah saw the reaction that touched him the most. Emma picked up one of the pairs and held it so carefully it seemed she was holding something extremely fragile. "My foot was hurting, but Mom didn't have money," she said quietly, almost as if talking to herself. Her big eyes met Noah's. "How did you know?" Noah felt a lump in his throat. There was no way he could have known. It had just been a guess, based on his own childhood, when a new pair of sneakers was a rare luxury. "I just thought you'd like them," he replied simply. At that moment, the bathroom door opened and Sophie appeared, wearing simple clothes and with damp hair. She froze when she saw Noah, and then her eyes registered the open bags, the scattered gifts, and her daughter's radiant faces. "What is going on here?" she asked, her voice a mix of surprise and concern. "Mom, look what Noah brought," Chloe exclaimed, running to show her the new uniform. "And there are backpacks and pencils and sneakers and even real watercolors." Sophie looked at the bags from expensive stores, at the clearly pricey items, and her face flushed intensely. She crossed her arms, as if trying to protect herself. "Girls, can you go to your room for a minute? I need to talk to Mr. Bennett." The twins exchanged worried glances, sensing the tension in the air. "But Mom," Chloe started to protest. "Just a minute," Sophie repeated more firmly. Reluctantly, the girls left the room, carrying some of the gifts, casting glances over their shoulders. When they were alone, Sophie turned to Noah, keeping her voice low so the girls wouldn't hear. "What are you doing?" she asked. "Didn't I ask you to stay away from my daughters?" Noah remained calm. "I just wanted to help. I saw they needed these things and—" "I can take care of my daughters," Sophie interrupted, her pride clearly wounded. "We don't need charity." "It's not charity," Noah replied softly. "It's just a gift. The girls welcomed me with open arms when I needed to be somewhere that day. They made me feel part of something. That's priceless to me." Sophie stared at him, studying his face as if trying to find any sign of falsehood. But all she saw was sincerity. Exhausted after a long day of work, she sank onto the sofa, her defensive posture suddenly crumbling. "You don't understand," she said, her voice now almost a whisper. "It's not just about the gifts. It's about expectations, They've already grown attached to you, and when you get tired of this and disappear, who's going to explain it to them? The question hit Noah like a punch. He had never considered that. What would happen next? He had acted on impulse, moved by a connection he couldn't explain. "I'm not going to disappear," he replied, surprised by his own certainty. "Unless you really want me to go." Sophie sighed deeply, running her hands over her tired face. For a moment, she looked much older than her probable 30 years. "Look," she said finally, "I appreciate the gesture. I really do. But you have to understand, we're from different worlds. You have a busy life, companies to run. The girls they're just two ordinary kids." "Not to me," Noah replied, surprising himself again with the firmness in his voice. "I can't explain it, but since I met them, something has changed. I feel like I need to be here." Sophie looked at him for a long time, a clear internal struggle visible in her eyes. "The sneakers were really necessary," she finally admitted, her voice low and a little embarrassed. "I was saving up, but the refrigerator broke last month and—" "You don't have to explain," Noah interrupted gently. "I grew up in a house where every penny was carefully counted. I know what it's like." Something in Sophie's face changed when she heard that, curiosity, perhaps even surprise. "You told the girls that too," she commented, "that you didn't grow up with money." Noah nodded. "It's true. What I have today, I built from scratch. And I understand your pride, Sophie. My mother was just like you. She'd rather work herself to exhaustion than accept help." A small smile, the first genuine one she had given him, briefly appeared on Sophie's lips. "Thank you," she said finally, her voice almost a whisper, "for the gifts. The girls really needed them." Noah felt a wave of relief. "Can I call them back?" "I think they were in the middle of a great discovery when you showed up." Sophie hesitated, then nodded. "Emma, Chloe, you can come back," she called out. The girls reappeared instantly, as if they had been waiting with their ears pressed to the door, which was probably the case. "Can we keep everything, Mom?" Chloe asked hopefully. Sophie looked at her daughters' expectant faces, and then at Noah. "Yes," she replied softly. "And what should we say to Mr. Bennett?" "Thank you," the twins exclaimed in unison, running to hug Noah, who was surprised by the strength of the feeling that washed over him as he felt their small arms around him. "How about you try on the uniforms?" he suggested, too emotional to say anything else. The girls needed no other encouragement. They ran to their room carrying the packages, leaving Noah and Sophie alone again. "They like you," Sophie commented, watching him closely. "And I like them," Noah replied simply. "I know it seems strange. We barely know each other." "But I understand," Sophie interrupted him, surprising him. "They have that effect on people. They always have." A comfortable silence settled between them, broken only by the excited sounds coming from the girls' room. "If you ever need anything," Noah said finally, "I want you to know you can count on me. Not just material things, anything." Sophie studied him for a long moment, as if trying to solve a complicated puzzle. "Why?" she asked finally. "Why do you care so much?" It was a question for which Noah had no clear answer. How could he explain a connection that he himself didn't fully understand? "I don't know," he answered honestly. "Faisa, I just know it's important for me to be here for you all." The twins reappeared then, wearing the new uniforms, twirling to show how good they looked. Noah noticed that the quality fabric fit perfectly, replacing the worn, too small clothes they had worn before. "It's perfect," Chloe exclaimed, admiring herself. "And so comfortable," Emma added, running her hands over the soft fabric. Noah smiled, feeling a satisfaction he rarely experienced in his professional life, even after closing the most profitable deals. In the following weeks, an unexpected routine was established. Noah began to visit the small apartment 2 or 3 times a week, always bringing something, sometimes just ice cream or a new book, other times more necessary items he noticed were missing. Sophie initially maintained a cautious distance, always polite but reserved. However, little by little, the barriers began to fall. She started to accept his presence, perhaps realizing the genuine joy he brought to the girls. On a Saturday afternoon, Noah sat on the living room floor with the twins, drawing with the watercolors he had brought. They had spread out newspapers to protect the floor, and the three of them were completely absorbed in the activity. "Look, Noah, I drew you," Chloe announced, showing a colorful drawing where a tall figure in a suit held the hands of two identical girls. "That's amazing," Noah praised, genuinely impressed with the girl's talent. "You have a future as an artist." "I want to be a doctor," Chloe replied promptly. "But I'll draw in my spare time." "And you, Emma?" Noah asked, noticing that the other twin was focused on a more detailed drawing of a large house with a garden. "I don't know yet," she answered thoughtfully. "Maybe an architect. I like to draw houses." Noah smiled, observing how different they were in their aspirations, despite their identical appearance. He was about to suggest they paint something together when he noticed a movement at Sophie's bedroom door. She was standing there, watching the scene silently. There was something in her gaze, a mix of complex emotions, concern, guilt, but also, for the first time, something that looked like hope. Her eyes met Noah's, and for a brief moment, a silent communication passed between them. It was as if she was finally seeing something in him that reassured her, perhaps the genuine affection he felt for the girls, the absence of any ulterior motive. Sophie quickly looked away, returning to her room, but Noah had seen enough to understand that something had changed. A barrier had fallen. Later, after the twins had gone to bed, Sophie walked him to the door. "They've never had a male figure in their lives," she said softly. "They're getting attached to you very quickly." "That worries you," Noah observed. "Not as a question, but a statement." Sophie nodded. "At first, yes. A lot. But now," she hesitated, as if carefully weighing her next words. "Now I'm starting to think it might be good for them." "I'm glad to hear that," Noah replied, feeling a relief he didn't know he was waiting for. "They are incredible kids, Sophie. You've done an amazing job raising them on your own." A soft blush colored Sophie's cheeks. "Thank you," she murmured. "And thank you for everything you've been doing. Not just the material things, Gahan, but for being present." As he walked down the stairs of the building, Noah reflected on how his life had changed in such a short time. Before, it was just work and more work, endless meetings and profitable deals, but without any real connection. Now, his most anticipated days were those when he visited the small apartment on Maple Street. What had started as an innocent request, to be a dad for a day, had turned into something much deeper and more meaningful. Sophie closed the door and leaned against it, taking a deep breath. She walked silently to the twins' room and stood watching them sleep. Their identical little faces relaxed and peaceful. In the last few days, she had noticed a change in them. They were happier, more confident. The new uniforms and school supplies had done wonders for their self-esteem. But it was more than that. It was Noah's constant presence, the genuine interest he showed in their small achievements and dreams. Sophie sat on the edge of the bed, a lump forming in her throat. A dilemma that had tormented her for years was now taking on new dimensions. The truth she kept hidden weighed more and more heavily on her chest. "Should I tell him?" she whispered to herself, gently stroking Emma's hair. "Does he have the right to know?" The fear of what could happen paralyzed her. What if he became furious that she had hidden the truth for so long? What if he wanted to take the girls from her, or worse, what if, after knowing, he lost interest and disappeared completely? But there was also another possibility, one that was beginning to seem less and less unlikely. What if he was really different from what she feared? What if he really cared about the girls as much as he seemed to? Sophie wiped away a silent tear. The most difficult decision of her life was approaching, and she knew she couldn't postpone it for much longer. The clock showed almost 9 o'clock when Noah arrived at the twins' small apartment. It wasn't his usual visiting time. He usually came earlier to have time to play with the girls before dinner. But today Sophie had called, asking him to come after the children were asleep. There was something in her voice, a tension, a restrained urgency that had worried him all day. He knocked softly on the door, trying not to make too much noise. Sophie answered almost immediately, as if she had been waiting near the entrance. Her eyes looked tired, with small shadows underneath that he had never noticed before. "Thanks for coming," she said quietly, stepping aside for him to enter. The girls just fell asleep. Did something happen? Noah asked, keeping his voice equally low. You sounded worried on the phone. Sophie didn't answer right away. She closed the door carefully and gestured toward the small kitchen. Can we talk in there? I don't want to wake them. Noah nodded, following her to the cramped but impeccably organized kitchen. The round table that occupied the center of the space barely fit 4 chairs. Sophie indicated for him to sit and took the chair opposite him. Her fingers drummed nervously on the table's surface. Want some coffee? She offered, clearly procrastinating whatever she needed to say. I'm fine, thank you, Noah replied gently. Sophie, what's going on? You're making me worried. She took a deep breath as if gathering courage. Her eyes, so similar to her daughter's, met his for a moment, then shifted to her own hands. I need to tell you something, she began, her voice almost a whisper. Something I should have told you a long time ago. Noah felt a sudden apprehension. In the last 2 months, since meeting the twins, he had become a constant presence in their lives. He visited them regularly, helped with homework, took them to the park on weekends. Sophie had become more receptive to his presence, though she always maintained a certain reserve. Now it seemed he would finally understand why. Does it have to do with that feeling that we've met before? He asked, remembering the strange familiarity he felt when he first saw her. Sophie nodded, lightly biting her lower lip. I've never been good at hiding things, she said with a sad smile. And every time you look at the girls, every time you play with them or help them with something, the guilt just grows. Guilt, Noah repeated, confused. Sophie, what are you talking about? She closed her eyes for a moment, as if making a final decision. When she opened them again, there was a determination there that wasn't present before. We have met, she said finally, her voice trembling but firm. I was a waitress at that party. It was just one night. I didn't know who you were. After I found out I was pregnant, I didn't know how to find you. The words hung in the air between them, laden with an almost tangible weight. Noah felt as if time had frozen. His mind raced, trying to process what he had just heard, trying to fit together the pieces of a puzzle he didn't even know he was trying to solve. What party? He asked automatically, still in shock. The grand opening of the Wellington Hotel, Sophie replied, her eyes now fixed on his. Almost 7 years ago, I was working as a temp waitress, needed the money for college. You were there, celebrating some kind of business deal. Slowly, the memory began to surface. The Wellington Hotel, one of the first major projects he had financed. The opening party had been extravagant, with champagne flowing freely and the city's elite all present. He had drunk more than usual, celebrating the success of the venture. You were wearing a black uniform, he murmured, the memory coming back now. Hair tied up, different from the curls you have now. Sophie nodded, a tear silently trickling down her cheek. You bumped into me near the restroom, she continued. I dropped a tray of glasses. You offered to pay for it, said you wouldn't tell anyone. We started talking, and we ended up in my hotel room, Noah completed, the memory now crystal clear. One night. A single night with a beautiful waitress whose name he barely remembered the next morning. A casual encounter that meant nothing, or so he thought at the time. I had never done anything like that before, Sophie said, as if she needed to explain. I was never the type of person who... But there was something about you, a connection. And I was young, and you were so... She didn't finish the sentence, but she didn't need to. Noah remembered the charm he had used, the sense of power he felt that night, young and newly rich, celebrating his first big success. The next morning, you were already gone, he recalled. I left money on the nightstand. Sophie winced. I didn't take it. I left because I had another shift for breakfast, and when I came back to talk to you, you had already checked out. Silence fell between them, heavy with the reality of the implications. Noah looked at the closed door of the girls' room, feeling a wave of emotion so intense it left him breathless. The twins, he began, barely able to form the words. They are. Your daughters, Sophie completed, her voice almost fading. Yes. Noah felt as if the floor had disappeared from under his feet. The twins, Emma and Chloe, were his daughters. The small hands that held his when they went to the park, the identical smiles that greeted him at the door, the curious questions about his work. All this time, he had been building a relationship with his own daughters without knowing. "Why didn't you look for me?" he asked, his voice hoarse with emotion. "I tried," Sophie replied, the tears now flowing freely. "When I found out who you really were, not just some hotel guest but Noah Bennett, the businessman, I thought about finding you. I even went to your office once, but what? I saw you leaving with a model, I think, getting into a limousine. It seemed like such a different world from mine," she explained, wiping her tears with the back of her hand. "Who was I? A pregnant waitress you would barely remember. What kind of reception would I get? What if you thought I was after your money? Or worse, if you demanded a DNA test and tried to take the babies from me?" Noah closed his eyes, feeling the weight of the situation. He understood her fear. At the time, he probably would have reacted exactly as she feared, with suspicion, possibly even hostility. "So you decided to raise them alone," he concluded. Sophie nodded. "I never thought we would meet again. When you showed up at that school presentation, it was like fate was mocking me. And when the girls asked you to introduce them to me," Noah began, the pieces finally fitting together. "I panicked," Sophie admitted. "I didn't know what to do. Part of me wanted to tell you everything that same day, but I was so scared." "Scared of what?" Noah asked gently. "Of losing my daughters," she replied, her voice choked with emotion. "Of you using your money and power to take them from me. Or worse, of you rejecting the idea completely and breaking their hearts." Noah fell silent, absorbing it all. He looked again at the bedroom door, imagining the girls sleeping, oblivious to the conversation that would change their lives forever. "But you're telling me now," he observed, looking back at Sophie. "What changed?" Sophie took a deep breath, her gaze now firmer. "You changed, or maybe the way I see you has changed. For the last 2 months, you've been different from what I imagined. The way you treat the girls, how you respect our boundaries, how you genuinely care." She hesitated, then continued. "They deserve to know who their father is, and you deserve to know you have 2 wonderful daughters." Noah felt the pieces finally fall into place. The inexplicable connection he had felt upon meeting the twins, the familiarity in Sophie's face, the way he felt so comfortable in that small apartment, it all made sense now. He was a father to 2 incredible girls who had already captured his heart before he even knew they shared his blood. The night had been long for Sophie. After Noah left, she remained sitting in the small kitchen for hours, replaying the conversation, the expression of shock on his face when he finally understood the truth. He hadn't yelled or made threats as she had feared for so many years. Instead, he had been silent, processing the information, asking questions with a calmness she hadn't expected. When they finally said goodbye, Noah had asked for some time to absorb it all. "I need to think," he had said, his voice hoarse with emotion. "This changes everything." Sophie had agreed, knowing he deserved that space. They agreed that she would talk to the girls first, preparing them for the truth that, in a way, they already seemed to sense. Now the next morning, Sophie felt exhausted but strangely light, as if a huge weight had been lifted from her shoulders. The truth was finally out, after so many years of secrecy. Emma and Chloe woke up early, as they always did on Saturdays, eager to enjoy the day. Usually, Noah would show up around 10 thrown, perhaps to take them to the park or the children's museum. The girls were already in the living room, drawing with the watercolors he had brought weeks ago. "Girls," Sophie called softly, sitting on the sofa. "Can we talk for a bit?" The twins looked up from their drawings, curious about their mother's serious tone. "Is something wrong?" Emma asked immediately, always the most perceptive about adults. "Mood shifts." "No, sweetie," Sophie replied, trying to smile. "Actually, it's something important. Can you come sit here with me?" The girls exchanged a look, that silent communication they always had, and got up, leaving their drawings on the floor. They sat on either side of Sophie on the small sofa. Sophie put her arms around her daughter's shoulders, pulling them closer. Her heart was beating fast, nervous, but she knew she had to do this. "Remember when you asked me about your dad?" she began, keeping her voice calm. The twins nodded simultaneously, suddenly attentive. "And I said he had left before you were born, and that I didn't know how to find him." "Yes," Emma replied. "You said he didn't know about us." Sophie took a deep breath. "That's right. I was never able to tell him that you existed, but something incredible happened." "What?" Chloe asked, her big eyes fixed on her mother's face. Sophie stroked her daughter's identical hair, trying to find the right words. "Sometimes, life surprises us in ways we can't imagine. Sometimes, people we've lost touch with reappear when we least expect it." "Mom," Chloe interrupted, impatient as always. "What are you trying to say?" Sophie smiled, despite her nervousness. Chloe always got straight to the point. "Noah is your dad," she said finally, her voice soft but clear. There was a moment of absolute silence. The twins looked at each other, that silent communication once again, their identical faces registering the same initial surprise, followed by something Sophie didn't expect, a kind of understanding, almost as if a suspicion had been confirmed. "We already thought he was our daddy," Emma said at last, her voice small but sure. Sophie blinked, surprised. "You thought so?" Chloe nodded vigorously. "He looks like us. He has the same smile as Emma and the same eyes as me. And he just showed up out of nowhere, after we wished for a dad," Emma added, with the simple and direct logic of children. It seemed too magical to be a coincidence. Sophie felt tears welling up in her eyes. All this time, while she had tortured herself with secrets and fears, her daughters had made the connection with the pure intuition that only children possess. "But you said you didn't know where our dad was," Chloe remembered, frowning in confusion. "And I didn't," Sophie confirmed. "It was truly a coincidence that he showed up at your school that day. I had no way of knowing he would be there, or that you would find him. So it really was magic," Chloe concluded with conviction. Sophie smiled through her tears. "Maybe it was. Sometimes life works in mysterious ways." "Why didn't you tell us sooner?" Emma asked, always the more practical one. "When he started visiting us," Sophie sighed. "I was scared," she admitted honestly. "Scared of how he would react, scared that he might be angry with me for not telling him sooner." "And was he angry?" Chloe asked, her big eyes revealing a hint of concern. "No," Sophie replied, remembering Noah's restrained reaction the night before. "He was surprised, of course, but not angry." "Is he still going to come back?" Emma asked, the real worry now emerging. Sophie hugged them both tighter. "Of course he will. He just needs a little time to take in the news. Imagine what it's like to suddenly find out you have two wonderful daughters." "When is he coming?" Chloe wanted to know, already excited by the prospect. "Soon," Sophie promised, hoping she was right. "He just needs a little time." The girls seemed satisfied with the explanation, although Sophie could see they had 1,000 questions. They spent the rest of the morning talking about Noah, about how he had entered their lives, about all the clues the twins thought they had noticed that indicated their relationship. Sophie listened in amazement at their perspective, realizing that, in many ways, her daughters had understood the situation better than she had herself. The following days were filled with anxious waiting. Sophie had tried calling Noah once, but it went to voicemail. She decided to respect the space he had asked for, though each day of silence increased her worry. The girls asked about him every morning before school and every night before bed. "Is he coming today?" became a constant question, to which Sophie could only reply with maybe or soon, feeling her own heart ache with uncertainty. 3 days turned into 4, and then 5. There was no news from Noah. Sophie alternated between worry and anger. Had she been wrong? Had he, confronted with the reality of fatherhood, decided to simply disappear? On the morning of the 6th day, Emma asked the question that hurt the most. "Mommy, does Noah not want to be our dad anymore?" Sophie felt her heart break, seeing the sadness in her daughter's eyes. "That's not it, honey. I'm sure that's not it." "Then why hasn't he come?" Chloe insisted. "He hasn't even called. Sometimes adults need more time to understand things," Sophie tried to explain, although she herself was beginning to have doubts. That afternoon, the girls insisted on waiting at the entrance of the building, sitting on the low wall by the gate. "What if he comes today?" Chloe argued. "We want to be the first to see him." Sophie didn't have the heart to say no. She allowed them to stay there, visible from the kitchen window, watching every passing car with renewed hope. The sun was beginning to set when a familiar black car parked across the street. The twins, who were almost giving up, immediately sat up straight. From the window, Sophie saw Noah get out of the vehicle. He looked tired, with dark circles visible even from a distance, but there was something in his posture, a determination, a certainty, that made her hold her breath. The girls didn't move, as if they feared any movement might make him disappear again. Noah saw them and stopped for a moment, clearly surprised to find them waiting. Then he walked toward them, his steps firm but cautious. Sophie hurried down the stairs, wanting to be present for whatever happened, but she stopped at a respectful distance, allowing the girls to have their moment. Noah approached the twins, who were still sitting on the wall, their small faces serious and expectant. He knelt before them, bringing himself to their eye level. "Hi," he said simply, his voice hoarse with emotion. "Hi," the twins replied in unison, still not smiling. There was a moment of silence, charged with everything that needed to be said. It was Chloe, as always, who spoke first. "We thought you didn't want to be our dad anymore," she said, her usually confident voice now reduced to an insecure whisper. Noah's expression broke upon hearing those words. Sophie could see, even from where she stood, the genuine pain in his eyes. "No," he replied immediately, his voice firm despite the evident emotion. "Never think that, ever." He held out his hands, one for each girl, and they took them after only a moment's hesitation. "I'm sorry I disappeared," he continued. "I had to sort out some important things to make sure I could keep all the promises I want to make to you." "What things?" Emma asked, always the pragmatist. Noah smiled, a gentle smile that transformed his tired face. "Grown-up stuff. Work, mostly. I had to reorganize a lot of things, to have more free time." "Time for what?" Chloe wanted to know. "Time for you," Noah replied simply. "Time to be a dad." The twins exchanged glances, that silent communication they always had. Sophie could see hope slowly returning to their faces. Noah took a deep breath, still holding the girls' hands. "I want you to know something, and I want you to never forget it, no matter what happens." The twins looked at him with absolute attention. "Nothing in the world will ever keep me away from you," he declared, his voice filled with an unshakable certainty. "I want to put you on my birth certificate. I want to give you my name. I want to be present for everything. School presentations, birthdays, ordinary days, every moment. I want to be the father you deserve to have." The girls' eyes widened at his words. For a moment, no one spoke, the weight of the promise hanging in the air between them. Then, as if responding to an invisible signal, the twins threw themselves into Noah's arms simultaneously. He hugged them tightly, closing his eyes as he held them against his chest. Sophie felt tears streaming down her face as she witnessed the scene. 7 years of worry, of doubts, of sleepless nights wondering if she had made the right choice. All of it seemed to dissipate before the image in front of her. Noah looked up and saw her standing there. Without letting go of the girls, he extended a hand toward her, inviting her to join them. Sophie hesitated for only a second before approaching. When she took his hand, Noah squeezed it firmly, his eyes conveying 1,000 unspoken words. Gratitude, forgiveness, promise. "We're going to make this work," he said, the "we" encompassing all 4 of them. "Together." Sophie nodded, unable to speak through the tears of relief that now flowed freely. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, they could truly be a family. 3 weeks had passed since the revelation. 3 weeks of adjustments, conversations, and small changes that, together, were beginning to transform 4 individual lives into a family. Noah had kept his promise. He went to the courthouse with Sophie to formalize his paternity of the twins, giving them his last name. Now, Emma and Chloe Bennett officially carried their father's name, a fact they announced with pride to anyone who would listen. In the small routine they established, Noah spent the nights at his own apartment, but showed up almost every morning to take the girls to school and returned in the late afternoon, often staying for dinner. Sophie watched, amazed, as he took on the role of a father with a naturalness no one would expect from someone who had just discovered he had 7-year-old twin daughters. On a Friday, Noah arrived earlier than usual. The twins were still at school and Sophie had managed to get a rare day off from work. "I have a surprise," he announced as she opened the door, an enigmatic smile on his face. "What kind of surprise?" Sophie asked, genuinely curious. Lately, she had allowed herself to let her guard down a little more each day, seeing how consistent and reliable Noah proved to be. "Actually, there are several surprises," he replied, entering the small apartment. "But the first one is just for the girls. I was thinking of picking them up early from school today and taking them on a special outing. Just them and me." Sophie felt a brief moment of hesitation, the protective instinct of a mother who had raised 2 daughters alone for 7 years, but quickly pushed it aside. "They'll love that. They've been talking non-stop about wanting to spend more time with you." "I know this has been an adjustment for all of us," Noah commented, his tone more serious. "Especially for you, having to share the girls after so long alone with them." Sophie appreciated his sensitivity. "It's been easier than I imagined," she admitted. "Seeing their happiness makes up for any adjustment." Noah nodded, clearly pleased with the answer. "So, can I pick them up today? I promised to bring them back for dinner." "Of course," Sophie agreed. "I'll call the school and let them know you'll be picking them up." When Noah arrived at the school, the twins were waiting in the office, their little faces lighting up when they saw him. It was still a novelty for them, being picked up by their dad, being able to say, "My dad is picking me up today," like the other kids. "Where are we going?" Chloe asked immediately as they got into the car, always direct and curious. "It's a surprise," Noah replied, adjusting the rearview mirror so he could see their faces in the back seat. "Or rather, several surprises." "I love surprises," Chloe exclaimed, while Emma just smiled, her enthusiasm more restrained but equally visible in her sparkling eyes. "Is Mom coming too?" Emma asked, always concerned about including everyone. "Today is a special day just for the 3 of us," Noah explained gently. "Or to celebrate us officially being a family." The girls exchanged excited glances. Since Noah had signed the papers acknowledging his paternity, they carried a new kind of confidence, a security that came from finally having what so many other children had, a present father. Noah drove for about 20 minutes until they reached a large shopping mall. The twins looked up in awe at the high ceiling with sophisticated lighting and the colorful storefronts. "First stop," Noah announced, guiding them to a huge toy store, the kind that looks like a children's paradise, with themed sections and interactive displays. The twins' eyes widened as they entered, and it was very different from the small neighborhood toy stores they occasionally visited with Sophie, usually just to browse or buy a modest birthday present. "You can pick whatever you want," Noah said, smiling at their astonished expressions. "No limits today." "Anything?" Chloe asked, incredulous. "Anything," Noah confirmed. "We're setting up a new room for you, remember? We need proper toys for it." The girls looked at each other for a moment, as if consulting one another in their silent communication, and then set off in slightly different directions. Emma to the section with educational games and books, Chloe straight to the flashiest and most colorful toys. Noah followed them, watching with interest the distinct choices they made. Emma selected carefully, examining each item before deciding if she wanted it, while Chloe quickly accumulated a pile of things that caught her eye. "I don't think we can take all of this," Emma commented worriedly, looking at Chloe's growing collection. "Today you can," Noah assured her. "It's a special day." After nearly an hour, the girls had selected an impressive variety: board games, picture books, science kits, dolls, building blocks, and a dollhouse big enough for them to play with together. As the staff packed everything up, Noah led them to the next stop, an elegant children's boutique, with clothes that looked like they were straight out of a catalogue. "Now," he said, "we need new clothes to go with the new toys." The twins seemed almost intimidated as they entered the sophisticated store. A sales associate approached, smiling kindly. "Can we help you with anything specific today?" "We're looking for a complete wardrobe for my daughters," Noah replied, feeling a special warmth as he said, "my daughters," out loud. "Clothes for all occasions." The sales associate nodded, professional but visibly excited at the prospect of a large sale. "We have beautiful collections for girls. Would you like to see something more casual or clothes for special occasions?" "Both," Noah answered, "and anything they like." Once again, the twins' different personalities emerged. Emma went for the more classic and practical pieces, while Chloe was drawn to everything colorful and eye-catching. The associate, in noticing their preferences, began bringing options that matched each of their styles. Emma tried on a simple but elegant dress, made of light blue cotton with small embroidered details. When she came out of the dressing room, she stood in front of the mirror, almost not recognizing her own reflection. "Hi, it looks beautiful on you," Noah commented, genuinely impressed with how the dress brought out the blue in her eyes. His eyes, as he now knew. Emma ran her hands over the soft fabric, an almost disbelieving look on her face. "I've never had such a pretty dress," she murmured, more to herself than to the others. Something about that simple, honest comment hit Noah deeply. The idea that his daughter, his own daughter, had never had something as basic as a pretty dress made his heart ache. In that moment, he promised himself that Emma, Chloe, and Sophie would never again lack for anything. Neither the essentials nor the small luxuries that make life sweeter. By the end of the shopping session, the girls had completely new wardrobes: dresses, pants, blouses, coats, shoes, and even accessories like hair bows and small children's jewelry. "We're not done yet," Noah announced, to the amazement of the twins, who were already thrilled with everything they had received. "So now we're going to choose the decorations for your new room." The decor store was a paradise of colors and styles. Again, the twins' distinct preferences showed, Emma preferring softer tones and delicate patterns, Chloe opting for vibrant colors and more playful themes. "How are we going to decorate one room with such different things?" Emma asked, concerned as she saw the contrasting choices. "Don't worry about that now," Noah replied mysteriously. "Trust me, it will work out." After selecting curtains, lamps, picture frames, decorative art, and various accessories, Noah finally announced it was time for a break. He took them to an elegant ice cream parlor inside the mall, where they could choose elaborate combinations of ice cream and toppings. Sitting at a table with colorful sundaes in front of them, Noah watched his daughters savoring the sweet treat, their faces lit up with a pure joy that made all the money spent seem insignificant in comparison. "This is the best day of my life," Chloe declared between spoonfuls, making Noah smile. "Mine too," he replied honestly. There was something deeply satisfying in being able to bring joy to his daughters, in seeing them experience new things, in hearing their laughter. "What are we going to do now?" Emma asked, always the planner, already thinking about the next step. Noah checked his watch. "Now we have one last surprise, and for this one we'll need Mom too." When they returned to the apartment, Noah asked the girls not to tell about all the shopping yet. It was part of the final surprise. Sophie noticed the conspiratorial glances among the three, but didn't ask questions, happy to see the bond strengthening between father and daughters. "I have something to show all of you," Noah announced during dinner. "If you're free tomorrow morning, I'd like to take you to a special place." "What place?" Sophie asked, curious about his mysterious air. "It's a surprise," Noah replied, winking at the twins, who giggled, accomplices in the secret. The next morning, Noah picked up the family early. The girls were especially agitated, knowing that more surprises were to come. Sophie, though trying to hide it, was also visibly curious. Noah drove for about 20 minutes, leaving the city center and heading towards a quiet residential neighborhood with tree-lined streets and spacious houses. Finally, he pulled up in front of a 2-story house with a well-kept garden and a wide entrance. "We're here," he announced, turning off the engine. Sophie looked out the window, confused. "What is this place?" Instead of answering, Noah got out of the car and opened the door for her, while the twins were already jumping out excitedly. "Oh, come on," he said, guiding them up the stone path to the front door. He took a key out of his pocket and unlocked the door, gesturing for them to enter. The interior of the house was spacious and bright, with large windows that let in natural light. The living room had a high ceiling, comfortable furniture, and a stone fireplace. The adjacent kitchen was large, with marble countertops and modern appliances. Everything was impeccably clean and tastefully decorated in neutral tones that created a sense of calm and warmth. Sophie stopped in the middle of the room, looking around with a confused expression. "Noah, what is this place?" He took a deep breath, suddenly nervous. "It's a house I bought. For us." Sophie was speechless, her eyes widening in shock. "I wanted you to have a real home," Noah continued, his voice soft. "A place with enough space for everyone, with a room for each of the girls, a yard where they can play, a kitchen where we can have meals together." "But," Sophie began, clearly overwhelmed by the surprise. "Goechi, come see the rest?" Noah interrupted her gently, not wanting to press for an immediate answer. He knew it was a big step, a huge change in their lives. The twins, oblivious to the tension between the adults, were already exploring excitedly, opening doors and checking every corner. "Look, there's a room just for me," Chloe shouted from somewhere upstairs. "And another one just for me," Emma's voice echoed, equally excited. Noah smiled, hearing their enthusiasm, then turned his attention back to Sophie, who still looked stunned. "I know it's a big surprise," he said softly. "And I want you to know there's no pressure. The house is for you, regardless of how we decide to move forward as a family." Sophie met his eyes, finally seeming to find her voice. "You bought a house for us," Noah nodded. "So the girls can have the space they deserve, so you don't have to work 2 jobs just to pay the rent, so we have a place to build memories together." "It's too much, Noah," Sophie whispered, visibly emotional. "We can't accept something like this." "Yes, you can," he insisted gently. "They are my daughters, Sophie. I want to give them everything they couldn't have for the past 7 years. Before Sophie could reply, they heard hurried footsteps on the stairs, and the twins appeared, their faces flushed with excitement. "Mommy!" "There's a huge backyard behind the house," Emma exclaimed. "And there's a perfect tree for a tree house," Chloe added. "Did you like it?" Noah asked, though the answer was clearly written on their radiant faces. "It's the best house in the world," Chloe declared with conviction. Emma, always more perceptive, looked at her mother, noticing her emotional expression. "You don't like it, Mommy." Sophie quickly composed herself, not wanting to diminish her daughter's joy. "It's beautiful, honey. I'm just surprised." "Are we going to live here?" Chloe asked directly, looking between the 2 adults. Noah left the question for Sophie to answer, not wanting to pressure her. Sophie took a deep breath, looking around once more, at the spacious and welcoming house, at Noah's hopeful face, at her daughter's shining eyes. Her every protective instinct wanted to refuse, to maintain her independence, not to accept something so grand. But there was also a new voice inside her, one that spoke of possibilities, of a future where her daughters would have everything they deserved, where she herself could finally breathe without the constant weight of financial worries. "I think so," she finally replied, her voice soft but firm. "If that's what everyone wants." The twins screamed with joy, jumping and hugging each other. Noah smiled, a visible relief washing over his face. "There's one more thing," he said, as the initial celebration subsided. "I want to show you something special, girls." He led them back upstairs, to a closed door they hadn't yet explored. "This is a special room," he explained, "for when you want to be together, instead of in your separate rooms." As he opened the door, it revealed a magical space, a large room decorated with a perfect combination of the contrasting styles the twins had chosen at the store. On one side, the soft tones and delicate patterns that Emma preferred. On the other, the vibrant colors and playful elements that Chloe loved. In the center, a common area where the styles blended harmoniously. All the purchases from the previous day, the toys, the decorative accessories were there, perfectly arranged. The dollhouse held a place of honor against one wall, and a bookshelf filled with books covered another. "It's our dream room," Emma exclaimed, running inside to explore. 2 weeks later, The move was complete. The small apartment on Maple Street had been exchanged for the spacious house in the tree-lined neighborhood. Sophie still worked, but only one job, with hours that allowed her to be home when the girls returned from school. It was in this new chapter of their lives that the first school event with Noah, officially as a father, took place. A science fair, where the twins would present a project on the water cycle, which they had prepared with his help. While the other children gave their presentations, Noah stood beside Sophie in the audience, the two exchanging proud glances every few minutes. When it was the twins' turn, they stood confidently next to their colorful poster. "Our project is about the water cycle," Emma began, her voice clear and firm. "And our dad helped us build this model," Chloe added, pointing to the three-dimensional display that showed the process of evaporation and precipitation. The pride on their faces as they said, "Our dad," was evident to everyone. After the presentation, when they received warm applause, they ran directly to Noah, who hugged them tightly. "Guys, you were amazing," he praised, genuinely impressed with their confidence. "It was thanks to your help," Emma replied, her arms still around his neck. As Chloe ran off to show something to a classmate, Emma lingered for a moment longer, hugged to her father. She leaned in and whispered in his ear, "Good thing we found you. Now you don't have to pretend to be our dad anymore. You're our daddy forever." Noah felt a lump in his throat, unable to respond with words. Instead, he just hugged her tighter, kissing the top of her head. Sophie watched the scene from a few steps away, her heart finally at peace. The path to get here hadn't been easy. Years of solitary struggle, of fears and doubts, followed by weeks of adaptation and change. But looking at her family now, her daughters happy and secure, the man she had rediscovered in such an unexpected way, she knew they were exactly where they were supposed to be. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next ones. Leave a like because it helps this story get recommended to more people. See you in the next story.